Now that we know what an interview is and how it differs from a typical conversation, let's talk about the main types of qualitative interviews that researchers conduct. The type of interview that is typically associated with the term qualitative interviewing is the so-called depth interview. This is simply an extended interview that focuses on one specific topic area or one specific theme. If you take any extended interview from a magazine, for instance, most women's magazines, but also men's magazines, have interviews with celebrities that span a few pages. Well, those are based on depth interviewing. So the interviewer has a list of topics or questions that they want to ask. In the case of journalists, these questions often have to be pre-approved by the celebrity or other public person that is going to be interviewed. Sometimes just a list of topics that a person wants to cover. I recently completed a series of interviews, some of which you might actually be able to watch on our class website. I interviewed most of the communication studies faculty because I wanted to learn about the most memorable and interesting research projects that they have completed up to date. And with each colleague, with each faculty member with whom I met, I went over a series of topics. I actually also showed these topics or questions to my colleagues ahead of time so they would know what I would be asking them about. And I can show you that list and what it looks like. And in fact, I will also attach it in our class website if you want to take a longer look at it. But here it is. This is what we call an interview protocol. I have a brief preview because, like I told you, I sent this to my colleagues and I wanted to explain to them why I would be asking these questions. And so here are the questions that I intended to ask. I started by asking them how they got into research and what they like about it, what their favorite research method is, and then I have a series of questions about a specific study that they did that they think is very memorable for whatever reason. Then we talk about the advantages or disadvantages of using the specific research design that they used in that one study. And finally, I ask one question about how they think research skills may be useful to anybody who graduates from college and doesn't necessarily become an academic researcher. So this is what a depth interview is. The next research method that is essentially a type of interview is the focus group. A focus group is simply a group interview. It involves interacting with not just one person at a time, but a series of people, typically anywhere from 5 to 12 people sitting in one place, typically around a table. Sometimes there is special equipment in the room, and I'm actually going to show you that equipment in just a moment. And it involves having the group talk about a topic or a list of topics. It's kind of like a discussion that you would have in a classroom. You know how sometimes teachers will put everybody in the class in a circle and the class has a discussion about topics and the teacher asks questions and students say what they think about these questions. So this is almost exactly the same idea. Now, the benefit of doing group interviews like this, in addition, of course, to the fact that you are getting information from more people at a time, so you're more efficient. But the main benefit is deriving more productive, more useful information from the group dynamic than you would normally get from interaction with one person. There is something unique about how people work when they are in a group. People tend to feed off of one another, create better ideas when they're working with others, because what they hear others say usually activates some additional thoughts in their brains, and the end product of such discussion is always better quality than if the same process was done with just one person. That's why advertisers use focus group interviews a lot to evaluate new advertising campaigns and to examine whether or not a given ad or a given product would be effective. That's why whoever is sponsoring the focus group to immediately observe the interaction as it happens and to collect information on the spot. So here is a clip from The Simpsons that illustrates this type of setup really well. Watch.
All right, thanks for participating in our focus group, kids. Today, we're going to show you some itchy and scratchy cartoons. Sure, we want you to tell us what you think, and be honest, because no one from the show is here spying on you.
Why is that mirror sneezing?
Look, it's just an old creaky mirror. You know, sometimes it sounds a little like it's sneezing or coughing or talking softly. Now, you each have a knob in front of you. When you like what you see, turn the knob to the right. When you don't like what you see, turn it left.
My knob tastes funny.
Please refrain from touching the knob. They like itchy, they like scratchy. One kid seems to love the Speedo Man. What more do they want? Okay, how many of you kids would like itchy and scratchy to deal with real life problems like the ones you face every day? And who would like to see them do just the opposite, getting into far out situations involving robots and magic powers? So you want a realistic, down-to-earth show that's completely off the wall and swarming with magic robots.
And also, you should win things by watching.
You kids don't know what you want. That's why you're still kids, because you're stupid. Just tell me what's wrong with the freaking show.
Excuse me, sir. The thing is, there's not really anything wrong with the Itchy and Scratchy show. It's as good as ever. But after so many years, the characters just can't have the same impact they once had.
That's it. That's it, little girl. You saved Itchy and Scratchy.
Please sign these papers indicating that you did not save Itchy.
So this was an example of a focus group, and what was really realistic about this is how frequently how focus groups are set up, especially if they involve people being exposed to some type of media content. What you saw children using those little knobs where they could record their response to what they were doing is an actual piece of equipment that is oftentimes used, especially in political research, where, for instance, political consultants are looking at how the audience responds to a speech by a political candidate, and the audience turns these knobs to the left or to the right, depending on how they feel about what the candidate is saying at any given time. But also, focus groups don't have to be as high-tech. Very frequently, we conduct them without having this one-way mirror where people can sit behind it and observe what's going on live. All you need is a room, some comfortable chairs, a table, and some way of recording these. You can record them using a tape recorder or a video recorder, or simply take notes, but it's always more efficient to have some type of technology to assist you. The next type of interview that is a little bit different than depth interview, but also qualifies within the range of qualitative interviewing, is an ethnographic conversation. Ethnographic conversations are short, informal types of interviews that are frequently very loosely planned or sometimes completely spontaneous, and we conduct those interactions while we are observing, while we are on site, observing some situation. So when you are conducting participant observation research, for instance, you are visiting a county fair and you are watching people as they enjoy themselves there, you may want to approach a few individuals and ask them a few questions. Why are you here? What do you think about the fair? What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? Just to get some first-person accounts of people's experiences during the fair. So this type of interview is conducted in conjunction with participant observation. And participant observation, remember, is a separate section in this class. There is a separate video class on it on Blackboard. So I have a video to show you, a clip from a qualitative research project where the researcher was exploring people's experiences at a particular karaoke bar. I believe somewhere in Texas or Nevada, I'm not sure. But either way, she had depth interviews with participants, with people who had frequented the bar, but also she went on site. She went to the karaoke bar, attended a karaoke night, and during that karaoke night, while she was observing people singing and enjoying themselves and eating, she also talked to some of the guests that were present there. So let's watch a little snippet together.
I've had to take a few people out here, but nothing major. I mean, it's usually, a lot of times you got to leave, they'll go on their own. But I've never had any real conflict in here. No. I mean, it's a pretty laid back place.
Are there other places like this where people gather? Or?
It's smoke in here for one, and it's more of a bar atmosphere than any other place in town.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And why is it that you said that people come here?
There's nothing else to do.
What?
So that was an example of a couple ethnographic conversations. Casual, short interviews. You simply catch someone on site where you're observing people, one of those people you're observing, and you ask a few questions, whatever it is that you're interested in. The last type of qualitative interview that we will isolate today is the narrative interview. And a narrative, of course, if you know what the word means, is a story. So this interview is based on people telling stories. It is also in depth because we typically spend a long time pursuing a story. We ask follow-up questions to make sure that the person gives us the story in a lot of detail. But the focus here is on hearing one complete story from someone's life. The topics of such interviews can really run the gamut. A lot of times people conduct interviews with their grandparents because they want to learn about the story of their family. Or, for instance, there have been ethnographic projects involving narrative interviews with people who survived September 11th attacks. And they told the story of how they got through that day and what they lived through. So the distinguishing feature of a narrative interview is the focus on a story and having a person tell a particular story of something that they experienced. It can focus on just one day in somebody's life or even less of a period of time, or it can stretch many, many years. So once again, 4 types of qualitative interviews are depth interview, focus group, ethnographic conversation, and narrative interview.